evening, everyone, and welcome to our Committee of the Whole meeting as well as our Council agenda. We're going to start off this evening with a prayer from Councillor B. Kenny, and we're going to continue with the National Anthem from Mr. Joe Longfellow. Councillor Kenny.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for thy blessings. You have given us this land as our heritage. May we prove ourselves a people mindful of your generosity and glad to do your will. Enrich our citizens with your heavenly grace and prosper them with happiness. Help this council and staff make wise decisions for the benefit of all in our community. This we ask in your precious name. Amen.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Joe. As always, well done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasure, as always.
Madam Clerk, are there any addendum items this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. None this evening.
Thank you. Members of Council, a motion to confirm the agenda, please. Councillor Demery, Councillor Elliott, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Are there any disclosures of interest this evening? With none, items requiring separate discussion. Councillor Elliott.
Items 1, 3, 5.
Further items, members? Councillor Kenny, can I have you lift item 13 and item 14, please? Sure. Thank you. With no further items, I'll take a motion to accept the remainder of the items on the agenda. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Bodner, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We do have two presentations this evening. We're going to start off with Chief Cartwright, who's going to be talking to us about Fire Safety Week. Chief, welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of Council. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to speak to you about some fire safety issues. First one is to announce, as some of us know, that this week is Fire Prevention Week throughout Canada. We had our open house kicking it off this past Saturday, a huge success. We had well over 300 kids go through, as well as a number of adults, so it was a huge success, and we'd like to thank the community for supporting us. The mayor will be announcing later tonight, designating this week as Fire Prevention Week, and what it's built around this year is plan 2 ways out. Plan and practice 2 ways out of your home or wherever you happen to live in the event of a fire emergency. Smoke alarms, our department is out this evening going door to door, as we do every Fire Prevention Week, as a group, including the volunteers in lieu of training tonight. We're doing an area in the city that hasn't been done before, and we're going door to door. I'm sad to have to say that over the last 9 years we've been doing this program, 9 to 10 years actually, and we're still finding a large number of homes in the community that do not comply with the Ontario Fire Code. About 45% of the homes right now we're finding don't have working smoke alarms in their homes, or the batteries aren't working properly in the smoke alarms that they may have up. So that's an ongoing issue, and it certainly is something that we do and try to enforce as best we can. And I would like to say that if you're in a home and you need help to put one up, or if you don't have the financial whereabouts to be able to afford one, please contact the fire department at 905-834-4512. We'd be more than happy to come over to your home, install the necessary working smoke alarms in your home at no charge to you. To go along with that, carbon monoxide alarms are another thing that we entered into a program with the Office of the Fire Marshal and Enbridge, and we have a combination alarms. We have about 235 of them or so that we will install in homes for people that need those. Again, they're at no charge. Our preference is to senior citizens and people who have difficulty financially with regards to purchasing them. They are a little more expensive, but we would be more than happy to install them up to the numbers that we do have available for that purpose. The last thing I just want to talk about very briefly is we do have a new rescue truck coming. I've circulated some pictures of it. It's nearing construction, final construction. I've taken those pictures off the internet that it is available. If anybody would like to see that, you can go on Spartan ERV and look at their trucks in progress, and you can look at the number of pictures of that truck being built from the bottom up. We expect that truck to be delivered within the next couple of weeks, hopefully in service by mid-November. That's all I have for this evening, unless there's any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Members of council, any questions or comments? Councillor Danch?
I've got a DZ license and I'd love to take it for a ride.
Thank you, Councillor Danch.
I think you'd have to line up behind the mayor. He's already asked.
I don't think he's got the Z endorsement. I'm not sure there.
You can ride shotgun if you want, though. Further questions or comments? Thanks, Chief. Well done. Members of council, it's my pleasure to be here with the second presentation on your behalf, as well as those residents throughout the community that once again are enjoying some fine photography that a lot of our volunteers are actually passing on to the city, and of course that are up and on our website and frequenting the walls of City Hall. And we're fortunate that the 2012 Summer Photography Competition is over and a winner has been chosen. We are very fortunate to have many talented photographers among us here throughout not only Port Colborne but throughout the entire region of Niagara that take a great interest in the city of Port Colborne and the many beautiful areas of the community that many of us frequent. This past summer, we asked residents to participate in our 2012 Port Colborne Summer Photography Contest. And with that, a winner was chosen with many pictures coming in. And I think this fellow's a repeat winner, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Richard O'Neill. Is Richard here today? There he is in the back corner. Richard, come on up, and we have a few things for you. But Richard captured a beautiful scene in his photography called The Canopy Ride Above Port Colborne. And it shows Port Colborne's shoreline. And of course, with that, you can see it on the screen. It's never looked any better. There's Niagara South Coast, right from Waynflete on down to Fort Erie. And I believe if you look close enough, you can actually see Frank's boat there, and he's fishing there somewhere. No fishing? Just water skiing and wakeboarding, right, Frank? But a beautiful scene of our waterfront, and I must say, Richard, something that I'm sure we're going to use in some of our, if you don't charge us royalties, some of our upcoming marketing materials. But it is a pleasure to be here and recognize your fine photography.
Thank you.
Now, were you in a plane there?
I'm under canopy as well.
Oh, so you're under canopy as well?
Yeah.
Excellent. So you skydive too?
Yes.
I heard B wants to do some skydiving soon. Is that true?
All right.
There you go, B. Good picture of B there coming down. But it is members of council, my pleasure to present to Richard O'Neill in recognition of your achievement as winner of the 2012 Port Colborne Summer Photography Competition. On behalf of members of City Council and all the citizens of the City of Port Colborne, thank you for showcasing our magnificent waterfront in the summer season. And of course, we expect a lot more out of you in the future.
You'll get it.
And that's great. And we also have a certificate here for Canadian Tire, $100 certificate for Canadian Tire, that I'm sure you can use, especially coming up to the Christmas season.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Well done. Dave, that's always your cue. You know, Richard, now that we know you skydive, Richard, we'll have to maybe bring you out and get some really nice shots, you know, skydiving down from the mill, or maybe, you know, a ship coming into the canal, or... Yeah. Yeah, see, there you go, Bob. Good to know.
Every weekend, we got you booked.
Members of council, we're now going to move on to our delegations. We have 3 delegations this evening. We have Lynn Cunningham, who's going to be representing the Municipal Relations Representative of the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, MPAC, our favorite folks that are here. They're going to give us an update on property assessment for the fall of 2012. Members of council, you do have it on page 7, and as well as some materials that Lynn has supplied to us. So, Lynn, welcome.
Okay,
It's great to have you out.
Mr. Mayor, Council, town staff, and public attendees, I'm pleased to be here this evening to review the assessment process and kind of highlight some of the, give you an update from 2012. As you may or may not know, the role of MPAC is to value and classify properties in Ontario in accordance with the Assessment Act and the regulations established by the Ontario government. When the municipality sets the tax rates, the assessed value and classification are used to determine the taxes. And the assessment update is a revenue neutral type of update. Bear with me. I'm going to briefly talk about the roles and responsibilities of MPAC. Following that, I'm going to talk about the 2012 assessment notice update, go over a little bit about my property, and then the process of request for reconsideration and filing an assessment appeal, as well as give you some numbers, preliminary numbers based on our 2012 assessment update, as well as some contact information about how to contact us at MPAC. The Assessment Act, which is the legislation that we follow, guides us that all real property in Ontario is liable for assessment taxation subsequent to the following exemptions from taxation. Properties such as churches, schools, and hospitals are exempt. We also exempt or don't assess personal property such as furniture, equipment, and objects. But what we do is the Assessment Act tells us that the assessment of land shall be based on its current value. So current value means the relation to land, the amount of money the fee simple, if unencumbered, would realize if sold at an arm's length willing buyer, willing seller. So what we're analyzing and what we look at is based on our open market sales between willing buyers and willing sellers. So all properties in Ontario are classified according to their use and as directed by the assessment regulations. So the current value of property is based on that definition of what a property would be expected to sell for, that willing buyer, willing seller. So, supported by the municipalities, MPAC determines the current value of properties, analyzing actual sale prices of given areas, all given areas. But not all real estate sales are arm's length transactions. Sometimes there's family sales, power sales, and foreclosures, and they wouldn't necessarily be included in the analysis. The valuation process itself can be very complex. The process, what we do is we collect the data from various sources, land registry, building permits, on-site inspections, and then once those inspections are completed, we analyze the data, we develop models, and apply those models, and the property valuation teams review those preliminary values and go through a fine-tuning process where they adjust the values, and then they get edit checked and gone over with a fine-tooth comb. From that, we mail out assessment notices. In this region, the residential and farm notices are going to be mailed out the second week in November. And then the business notices are going to go out on a separate mail out towards the end of November. Okay, so everyone across this region will be receiving notices at that particular time. The assessment roll itself will be delivered to the municipality the second Tuesday in December. So when property owners receive that assessment notice, what they need to do is ask themselves, is this what they expect their property would sell for as of January 1st, 2012? Okay, and if they don't agree with that assessed value, they have two options. The first option is filing a request for reconsideration. The second option is filing an appeal with the Assessment Review Board. For 2008, the assessment update, the provincial government introduced several key changes. They introduced a 4-year reassessment cycle, and the market changes, an increase, would be phased in over those 4 years. This provided an extra level of tax stability and predictability. What they also decided was that decreases in assessment from base year to base year would be implemented immediately. All property classes are phased in. So this is the current cycle for 4 years. So currently we're in the last year, we're in the 2012 taxation year of the 2008 update with a valuation effective date of January 1st, 2008. That was for the taxation year of 9, 10, 11, and 12. We're moving for the taxation year of 2013, 14, 15, and 16. We're basing those assessment values on a valuation date of January 1st, 2012. Okay. This example is a residential property valued at $360,000 as of January 2012. The previous value of the property was based on January 1st, 2008, and that value is $300,000. So the property value changed is $60,000. That's equally phased in over the 4 years, starting from 2013 up to 2016, where that $360,000, which is representative of the January 1st, 2012 value, is realized. So beginning in September, we started to mail out assessment notices to nearly 5 million properties across Ontario. It's a staggered schedule because there are so many notices to be mailed out. And like I mentioned, this region, the residential and farm notices will be coming out the middle of November, and the business notices will be at the end of November. If staff have if people have questions once they receive their notice, and there will be an influx to the municipalities as well, there's some numbers and contact information of where to direct people's questions. And our local office is in St. Catharines. We'll have staff on hand up until with added hours to be there should there be questions once a person receives their notice. So much similar to the notices that was received last year. It's quite detailed and it looks similar to the way it was before. In terms of a breakdown, we provide the property's classification section in the middle of the notice. We'd specify when in the 4-year cycle and the property's current value as of 2008, and then the new 2012 destination or new value. We also provide on the notice towards the bottom, there's messaging with respect to the phase-in. It advises the increase in assessed value. In this property's assessed value, it increased 20%, so the phase-in increase adds 5% per year from the starting point to the ending point. Also on the notice, additional information is at the bottom, provided where a person can verify that the information that we have on record is actually accurate. In this particular example, you're seeing a frontage and depth of the lot size being 50 by 150, and the square footage of the residence, 2,000 square feet. That can be verified. This part of the notice provides the property taxpayer with a comparison of assessment change for their own property between 2012 and 2013. So for the first year of the phase-in, and then overall what's happened in the municipality as a percentage. About My Property, in 2007 we added About My Property an online service. This is for looking up assessment information, so each notice has a unique name and password. We're continuing with this initiative throughout 2012. with some additional updates. With this, the property taxpayers who wish to obtain additional information can go on to www.aboutmyproperty.ca or www.mpact.ca and go into the portal that's provided. If you don't have access, we've partnered up with Service Ontario centers and participating libraries, or we have staff on hand at our customer contact center to directly assess, help people or guide them through if they want to just talk about it with us. Accompanying the property assessment notice, there's an insert that provides additional information about the request for reconsideration process, and also explains in more detail to help them with their understanding. And in response to the ombudsman, there was a recommendation that we, if there was a history of an adjustment that was given in a request for reconsideration previous or an assessment review board hearing, we added an insert as well with the notice that goes out stating whether or not that adjustment was carried forward with this notice, and if it isn't, then a little bit of verbiage as to why or why not it would be or wouldn't be. So that's now included. So further with About My Property, this is what the portal actually looks like when you actually log in to make comparison. It's a secure site where an owner can go into the property and see a picture of their property and locationally view it on a map. As well, they can see their most recent notice that's now there, and should they lose their notice, this is an enhancement that it can be printed from this site, so or gone back to in the future. So now, from now on, any notices in the future are going to be stored here for reference. So that's a major enhancement to this program this year. Another feature is the ability for a property owner to confirm that the information that we have is accurate. They'll also be given the opportunity to provide and make changes as required. So what it looks like is there's a drop-down menu with their own information, and it will pop up, and depending on the nature of the response that's provided, we may need to follow up and perform an on-site visit. But there they can verify that their information is accurate. With this new version, the property owners will have the option to view sales within their vicinity. The sales will be plotted on a map with photos displayed on the top of the page. This is the map view, and the photos at the top of the page there. They'll be able to view up to 100 properties and specify 24 comparable properties to be included in their properties of interest report. That's what the report looks like. Okay. And they can actually online submit a request for reconsideration right then and there electronically, and attach the report to the request and stating this is the reason why. They can also, if they've done it in the past, or there are forms available at our office, online, and at the municipalities to file a request for reconsideration. This is the older version of the form. This is the mandatory first step for residential and farm, not mandatory for commercial properties. They can go directly to the Assessment Review Board, and the filing date this year, so the deadline for filing a request for reconsideration is April 1st. Okay. The Assessment Review Board is an independent tribunal under the Ministry of the Attorney General. There is associated filing fees should they have to go to that, and we would go from there. Moving into the 2012 Assessment Update Market Snapshot. This was one of our initiatives this year. This Market Snapshot report was of residential sales across Ontario, and it came out in July. This report does not summarize assessment change, but it reflects what happened in the sales market, and what it showed this year was across the province there was an increase of 17% on average, but for us here in Niagara, the sales indicated around a 4% of an increase. And what's happening for Port Colborne, the residential and farms, according to the preliminary reports, it looks like the residential market is up approximately 6.4%. So that's for the 7,700 approximate residential properties. And the farmland properties across Port Colborne just are up approximately 40% based on farm sales. This slide is an average assessed value by selected residential properties. Primarily, most of the properties are properties which are single-family detached homes, and they, on average, in this summation, go up approximately 3.52%. So no big drastic changes in the market. It's a steady increase. In terms of assessment dates, important dates, so that assessment notice delivery is going to be November, middle, and the end. Our customer contact center, as well as our local office, has extended hours for that period. The delivery of the assessment roll will be second Tuesday in November or December to get to the municipalities. And for all of the public, they need to be aware that that filing deadline, if they decide to file a request for reconsideration, it needs to be by April 1st. Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Lynn. Well done. Members of council, any questions or comments? Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenter, something that jumped out at me, farm increase 40%. Is that,
Ms. Cunningham?
Yeah.
wasn't a mistake, right?
No, it's not a mistake. Through the mayor to you, what we're finding across the province of Ontario, and that's based on farmer-to-farmer sale transactions, is that there is a demand for farm properties. So with the supply and demand, we analyze those farm sales, the farmer-to-farmer transactions, and pretty much across the province, that's what's been happening. The farm properties have been increasing. It seems to be farmers are buying more land due to quota restrictions. There's a demand for the land, and the interest rates are low, so there's a market for them, and that's what's, we don't, impact doesn't make the market, we analyze the market, so that's what, in terms of analysis, happened.
Thank you. Councillor? Further questions or comments? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. The other part of the slide that Councillor Bodnar was talking about was residential increase 3.52%. Is that the 4-year average? You can expect to see on average home over 4 years go up 14%?
That's in total, so that's
In
what we're
total?
suggesting from 2008 to 2012. That's in total on average for Port Colborne, what we should expect on average, roughly. That was based on preliminary figures. The final figures will be reflexive of, as of the notice, and that actual percentage will appear on the notice, what it actually turns out to be, but I don't expect it to be much different.
Okay. And just for the folks at home that might be watching, how many physical assessments do you do? Do you pick a random selection in each municipality to go out and take a look at, or is everything just compiled through statistics?
It's a combination of both. We do inspections when there's building permits. We do re-inspections, so we're on a 12-year cycle where every property is inspected over that 12-year period. Across the province, for just based on for this year, for the reassessment, we did 210,000 inspections.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Further questions or comments? Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship, for the presenter. So just so I have it straight, because when I was watching you speak, and I could see all the people looking and thinking, I don't believe this. I don't believe it either. I think it's hard, it's going to be really hard for our seniors, you know, who own property and have to understand all this. I mean, listening to you talk just now, I was wondering, how am I ever going to comprehend that? So how are they going, and if they call me, how am I going to explain to them the process? So you said a steady increase. It's going to be a steady increase in their property value or their market value of their home from 2012 to 2016. That's the increase that you, and how much at the end of 2016 will the market value of their home increase?
Ms. Cunningham.
Through you, the average is the
Average, yeah.
information. It's not going to increase any more than what the phase-in does is phases in that total increase over the 4 taxation years.
Over the 4 taxations, does that say 6.4
It does, on average.
on
For-
average?
Yes, for residential properties, it's phasing that 6.4% increase over the
Over-
4 years.
right.
So even though we determine that value, it's as of January 1, 2012, it's actually realized in 2016. So it's just the increase from what it was assessed in 2008,
Yeah.
this year, up until 2016 is when you realize that 6.4% increase.
Counselor?
I know.
Confused?
It's still 6.4% increase over 4 years, right?
Right,
Thanks, that's what I was.
but not
No, I know what you're
each
saying.
year.
Not each year, no. You're phasing 6.4% of an increase
in equally
equally over 4 years.
correct.
Because I know a lot of them will not understand that. I mean, I'm having a hard time understanding it. I'll have to wait, I guess, till I get my notice in the mail.
Yeah, once you
Okay.
get your notice, have a look, see if the value is reflexive of what you think it would sell for. And if there's questions, that's why I've provided the contact information, direct them to us, because we have experts on hand that can explain to them the figures, what they're based on. They can go over their own information.
Okay. Any further questions or comments, members? Mr. Sinez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify, the 6.4% though, that's all residential properties, including residential properties on the water, and not sure if it includes townhouses and things like that.
That's correct.
That includes, so there's, when they say residential, the 6.4% is residential, not just your single-family dwellings that are not on the water, but also on the water and condominiums and so on, so it's a combination. The 3.52% is the 5,500 residential properties that are not on the water.
Correct.
So just to clarify that.
Thank you, Peter. Further questions or comments? With that, Lynn, thank you. Wonderful job, and thank you for coming out this evening. We'll make sure that we point all the questions to you. Thanks, Lynn. Yeah. We get Ball B's number yet. Members, our next delegation is Ms. Tamara Coleman-Lowry, Manager of Autism Ontario. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Badaway and City of Port Colborne councillors. On Monday, October 1st, the Niagara Region chapter of Autism Ontario, along with 27 other chapters across our province, kicked off National Autism Awareness Month in Canada. I join you here this evening to share with you what affects nearly 5,000 individuals across the Niagara region and to share with you the frightening realities facing our communities. As you may know, autism is a family of disorders called autism spectrum disorders, also known as ASD. ASD is a complex developmental disability that usually becomes apparent during the first 3 years of life and is the result of a neurological disorder that affects the functioning of the brain. ASD is the third most common developmental disorder. It is more prevalent than Down syndrome, childhood cancer, cystic fibrosis, or multiple sclerosis. ASD is a spectrum disorder, meaning no two people will experience ASD in precisely the same way. Every individual will show characteristics of the disorder in varying degrees, from mild to severe, with difficulties in verbal and nonverbal communication, behavior, and social interaction. It is vital that as a nation, province, and community, we begin to understand the more than 80,000 families affected by ASD. Over the past year, the Niagara Region chapter has invested in a lengthy adult ASD project to identify the service options, gaps, challenges, and successes faced by at least 1,000 adults with ASD in our communities. On June 7th this year, the Niagara Region chapter, with the funding support from the Fowler Family Foundation, held a community consultation day. 2 weeks ago, we released the report to the media, our community stakeholders, and was shared with MPs and MPPs throughout the summer. This report shares just how terrible access to and receipt of supportive services can be for adults with an ASD. Mayor Badaway and City Councillors, you've been provided with a copy of the complete adult project report in your package. The report recommendations clearly indicate a gap in serious issues associated with housing, employment, transportation, daytime and recreational programs, transitional support, professional services and respite care, planning and case management, crisis and clinical support, public education, advocacy and awareness, mental health, funding and evaluation processes, collaboration, and system information, as well as referrals. The report focuses on 5 core priority areas that need to be addressed in the next few years to support the wave of teens and adolescents approaching adulthood. These critical supports are not in place to help the many adults with ASD. As I mentioned, there's at least 1,000 individuals in this community that have a diagnosis, and many more that we know who do not. These critical supports, adults with ASD, after they turn 18, often do not qualify for aid, are at times left at home to fend for themselves or to be cared for by parents. Parents who are often forced to choose between employment and the care of their adult child. These 5 core priority recommendation areas are: priority number 1, employment, daytime, recreation and leisure programs, as well as housing. Priority number 2, collaborative case management. Priority number 3, community awareness and education. Priority number 4, transition planning. And priority number 5, additional funding. The report was released to media, provincial, federal, and regional members with a clear message, a message that I would like to share with you this evening. The ASD conversations must start. There may be no money, as I've heard throughout the summer from our MPs and MPPs, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't start to talk about smart solutions now. What are we going to do to support 80,000 Ontario families as their children with ASD become adults with ASD? Better yet, what are we going to do when the parents are no longer able to take care of their adult child? We need to start talking about autism so that we can collaboratively identify strategic and smart solutions for adults in the Niagara region and Ontario. Recently, Autism Ontario released a new prevalence rate. 1 in 100 children will now be diagnosed with ASD. I heard a statistic recently as well that approximately 15 years ago it was 1 in 900. That is a staggering increase, and we must begin to address it appropriately. Whether it be through innovative government funding options, investments in transition planning, housing or day programs, there will be soon thousands of adults who have no support systems. There is no cause, we know there is no cure, but we do know that there is hope and there is support. Right now, unfortunately, there is really only support for children, and even that at times can be minimal with years of wait lists and confusing government systems. The most recent blow to families, the change from Special Services at Home funding, which is known as SSAH funding, to passport funding. Prior to April 1st of this year, families could access, at times and often with years of wait lists, SSAH funding. In 2004, the MCSS made a decision to transform the Special Services at Home funding, and this year rolled out passport funding. What is the impact on families with adults with ASD? For parents who have an adult, son or daughter, who were receiving SSAH funding, they received a letter stating that this funding would turn into passport funding in April of 2012. Effective April 1st of next year, there is no guarantee that they will receive any of that money. Parents will now have to go back and reapply and then be placed on another wait list, a wait list that they often already were on for 3 to 5 years. Children with developmental disabilities turning 18 between April 1st of this year and March 31st of next year, who did not have any of the SSAH funding yet, but who were approved for that funding and placed on the wait list, will not receive any of the money that they were promised or approved for. What we are being told is that this list doesn't even exist anymore. They are being directed to Developmental Services of Ontario to inquire about applying again for the new adult system. People with developmental disabilities between the ages of 18 and 21 who are still in school, who have not yet applied for SSAH, are not eligible for any of the passport funding or direct funding through the Ministry of Community and Social Services until they finish high school. So that could be another 3 years if they're 18. This means that they will have to wait up to 3 years just to get on that passport list. Follow that with potentially years of waiting to be approved for passport funding. No new SSAH funding has been allocated for children with disabilities by the Ontario Liberal government since 2007. Anyone that has applied for money from the SSAH funding pot Since 2007, has been put on a waiting list. Not a single parent who was on that waiting list has seen a penny since 2007. Most families with children under the age of 5 do not receive any SSAH funding. Not to mention the new passport funds are completely underfunded as well. We can and must do better. Our mission at Autism Ontario is to ensure that each individual with ASD, whether child or adult, is provided the means to achieve quality of life as a respected member of our society. Only with appropriate investment from our government, as well as education and intervention, could Autism Ontario and our Niagara Region chapter help individuals with ASD. Today I shared with you just the sum of the realities that adults across our region, along with their parents and families, are experiencing. My request, let's start talking at our local level, regional level, with members of our provincial parliament, and at the federal level. Our message this month is clear. Learn about ASD, get involved, and we better start talking. In closing, I would like to thank you for your time and for your attention. It's been a pleasure to recognize Autism Awareness Month across Canada here with you this evening, and to hopefully shed some light on the realities that many of the families across our region are dealing with on a daily basis. What we need to remember and not forget is that a child with autism grows up to be an adult with autism. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Tamara. Well done and well stated.
Thank you.
Great job. Members of council, questions or comments? With none, once again, great job. And we do have a proclamation that I'll be introducing to council during our council portion of the agenda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, we now have Ms. Patricia Regier. I think it's Regier. Is it Regier? I pronounced it properly. From the Hamilton, Niagara, Halden, Brent, Lynn. And you're here to talk about the Home and Snow Buddies program. That's awesome. Welcome, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Thank you. Now you can hear me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Patricia Regier, and this is Lori Elliott-Leach. We're both from Community Support Services of Niagara, the Safety at Home program, and to focus on the Snow Buddies program here in the Niagara region and in Port Colborne. So, Community Support Services of Niagara, we serve both seniors and adults with disabilities across the entire Niagara region. We have 3 offices to serve this population, and we're non-profit with funding from the LIN. A lot of our programs would not exist, though, without volunteers. Just a quick snapshot of all of our programs. We have transportation programs, volunteer visiting and phone chat, homemaking at a reasonable cost, home maintenance and repair, Meals on Wheels, Lunch Out. Our volunteer visiting, some of those programs are no charge at all, again, based on volunteers, and various partnerships. And then the program that we represent is Safety at Home and Snow Buddies. Every 10 minutes in Ontario, at least one senior visits an emergency department due to a fall. This might not be news to a lot of people, and a lot of people might know of somebody that has experienced a fall, but it does cost a lot of healthcare dollars, so we want to focus on what we can do to prevent that from happening. So seniors connected with the Snow Buddies program will impact people's quality of lives and really make a difference. And our focus is healthier, safer, stronger seniors. People are injured at home more than any other location, so this is where we can really make a big impact. And the Safety at Home program helps with free home visits. We also connect people with other supports based on what their needs are, what they're wanting in their home. And again, to stay healthy, safe, and strong and independent where they want to live. Snow removal volunteers through our Snow Buddies programs is part of this. And we also have some subsidy dollars to help with, for example, purchasing and installing grab bars. We also have brokered workers that can do some of the home repairs. And sometimes it's not about any cost, it's small changes that can make a big difference for someone to stay where they want to live.
Thanks. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Snow and the Leaf Buddy program. This year we are happy to announce that we are adding the Leaf Buddy program to the Snow Buddy program. I'll touch on that in just a second. Just a snapshot of our clients. The majority of our clients are senior citizens. A lot of them have medical conditions. They're on a fixed income. They don't have family that lives close by, which makes it difficult for them to have their driveway shoveled or their leaves raked. A lot of our clients, it can be a choice between getting groceries, having their driveway shoveled for the season. Sometimes they have to make that decision. A lot of our clients as well have medical conditions. They need to get out for medical appointments, medical services, and they have home care and medical services coming into their homes as well. So they need to have their driveways cleared so these services can get in and out, or they need to get out in case of an emergency. The Leaf Buddy program, which we've added this year, of course, it's similar to the Snow Buddies program. It would be run the same way. Seniors still need the support in the fall as well as in the winter. Having their leaves raked can also prevent falls as well as having their driveway shoveled. It will give the students more hours if they can start earlier in the season. Our hope is that we can match them in the fall to rake leaves for our clients and then move into the winter months where they can continue on and help them by shoveling their driveways. Of course, it gives them their community involvement, their community service hours, helping a neighbor, those types of things. The intergenerational interaction is also very important and makes this program very, very special and makes it work quite well. It also is a free support for people who can't afford these services. Our Snow Buddies program, of course, is the same as the Leaf Buddies, where we will match a student with a senior. We try to match them geographically, so as close as possible, so they can get to the client's home easier, makes it more accessible, easier for them to get there to remove their snow or their leaves for them. It is a free service. It, of course, prevents slips and falls, keeping our clients safe. It's a volunteer opportunity and a support for our seniors in our community.
So we're going into our fourth winter season, which is surprising. The years go by quickly. And really, partnerships is what has made it a difference for being able to continually grow this program every season and help recruit volunteers. We really can't offer the support without people volunteering their time to help out a neighbor. And Port Colborne's been a special partnership as well, right from the beginning. Last year, the Safe Communities Canada also gave an award for Safe Communities Port Colborne along with the Snow Buddies program. So that's something that this community has been part of. And last year we started a Facebook page. We're trying to reach out in every way we can, and there's been a lot of great media coverage because we continually need to get the word out, whether it's links on websites, we have partnerships with the school boards. We do accept volunteers that are older than 18 as well, but that requires an additional step of police check and references. But with the students through the schools, the great advantage is to obtain community service hours and really make that difference for helping out someone. Last year we were given a suggestion by one of the city halls to look into maybe something like a toque to give to the Snow Buddy volunteers as a thank you. And since they're going out into the cold, and Safe Communities Port Colborne has indicated that they're supportive of giving that thank you to the students here in this community. So what are we asking today? We really have appreciated the support that Port Colborne has given over the past winters. It's not even just between City Hall and a community program, but it's really between people. And that's what this is all about. It's making a difference in individual lives. And being a champion support as Port Colborne has been, we've just really appreciated it and want to thank you for that. Some of the ways that you have helped is even giving space for the orientation at the beginning of the season, or the thank you, little event at the end for the students. And it's the little ways that make a big difference for us because we're across the whole Niagara region, and it's really these partnerships that make the difference.
Sorry, if I could just add to one of the partnerships we've really been so appreciative of in the Port Colborne community. It's the support we've had from Joanne Ferriccioli. I don't think this program could have run as well in the Port Colborne community without the assistance and the support of Joanne, and we're certainly going to miss working with her this year because she was a really, really big help to this program. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
So we appreciate the support and the ongoing support from your staff or anyone that steps forward to making that difference. So we ask that everyone encourage someone to volunteer. If we had even one student in every neighborhood, what a difference that would make to a lot of people. And anyone can contact us to volunteer. Lori's phone number is 905-682-3800, extension 28. We also have through our website, Community Support Services of Niagara, or people can find us through Facebook as well. But we're always looking for volunteers so we can keep expanding this program and keep helping more people. Or if anyone's interested in any of our programs or supports, they can contact us. So thank you very much.
Great work, ladies. Wonderful job. Members of council, questions or comments? With none, once again, I thank you. Thank you for coming out this evening. Members of council, if I can have a motion to receive all three presentations, please. Councillor Danch, Councillor Elliott, are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. And once again, to all you folks, thank you for coming out this evening. Great work. I'm now going to move on to my report. I have a short report this evening, essentially congratulating some members of our team. It's my pleasure this evening to extend on your behalf, members of council, our congratulations to our economic development team. For a second year in a row, Port Colborne has won multiple awards from the International Economic Development Council, the IEDC, earning 4 2012 IEDC Excellence in Economic Development Awards. Port Colborne continues to gain international recognition for its marketing and promotional work that, quite frankly, we do in-house. Not many people would recognize that, but we do all this work in-house here in our city. And with 2 first-place finishes and 2 second-place finishes for 4 2011 initiatives, Port Colborne received significant recognition at the awards ceremony celebrating the world's best economic development programs and partnerships, marketing materials, and the year's most influential leaders. These award honors were presented to the City of Port Colborne, our team, for the following. The Niagara South Coast Arts and Culture Route Launch Event received the Gold Award in the Special Event category. Manufacturing, Transportation, and Wind Energy Companion Brochures received the Gold Award in the General Purpose Brochure category. The Carbohydrate Valley Video received the Silver Award in the General Purpose Promotion category. And finally, the Residential Development Advertisements received a Silver Award in the Paid Advertising Campaign category. And that one particularly is special because that's an award that we have partnered with the private sector on to ensure that those private sector investors that are trying to promote their developments here in the City of Port Colborne gets out there, not only with what they're doing, but also with the doing and resources that the city has available to them. Members of council, the IEDC Excellence in Economic Development Awards competition attracts submissions from across the world and is judged by a panel of experts engaged in economic development and marketing. Enhancing and earning these awards signifies that Port Colborne is at the forefront of economic development and tourism marketing. And kudos to our team. And it's not like we have a team of 20. We have a team of 2, including the participation from members of council, my office, and of course, the offices of planning and operational services. Receiving these awards 2 years in a row speaks loudly to the quality of the programs and marketing being done by the city's Economic Development, Tourism, and Marketing Office. Port Colborne's strong, innovative marketing tools continue to garner attention among the investors and businesses worldwide. Earning international recognition for the city's efforts should inspire us to continue to evolve our promotional tools so that we can continue to be recognized for the strengths Port Colborne, as part of a beautiful region here in the Niagara area, offers businesses at home and abroad. For your information, IEDC is a Washington, D.C. based organization with over 4,500 members that helps economic developers do their job more effectively worldwide and raises the profile of the profession worldwide. The awards were announced on September 29th at IEDC's annual conference, and you'll be proud to know that Mr. Stephen Thompson was there as our EDO to accept the awards proudly on behalf of the city of Port Colborne. Finally, members, I do have an announcement. I promised Jeff Bellin I would make this announcement today, that all hands on deck, Port Colborne's Niagara Night of Arts is just around the corner, this being a showcase of free hands-on workshops exploring your inter-artist and inner artist in a variety of artistic ways. Children and adults will enjoy this free event featuring visual arts, sculpture, printmaking, music, and many other creative forms of expression set out in stations in a lovely heritage house in the heart of our canal city, over at Roselawn. Choose to take in performances or participate in many activities as you wish. Each will take about an hour or less, and you will learn the skilled trades of local artists. Come for the afternoon, the evening, or stay all day to take part in art. Take your creations of lifelong memories home with you, and by all means, participate with the entire family. And I do have to say, because I was getting ribbed when I was walking in here about the facial hair compared to the head hair. And it is a race, Councillor Kenny, between which one grows faster. And of course, for the most part, I'm just rekindling my old hockey days. So to Councillor Danch, be careful. I do have the Sherwood under the desk here, so behave tonight. But for the most part, in all seriousness, back in September, I did take part in a Terry Fox head shave to bring recognition to what Terry had done, and of course the importance of really recognizing how important cancer research is and raising money for cancer research. In October, you'll notice I have my pink on today, and of course with that recognizing breast cancer here in the month of October, and once again recognizing the need for us to pay attention to that terrible disease and all those that have lost their life in the battle, as well as those that are currently fighting, and most proudly for those that beat breast cancer, and but most of all, the need to recognize how important it is to be tested yearly for that disease. And now moving into November with Movember, and of course getting a head start on it with the facial hair, and once again bringing attention to the need to prostate cancer for those men. And of course, with that, paying special attention to those that have lost, that are fighting, and that are beating that disease. And again, most importantly, the need to be tested annually to ensure that if in fact you do come to the realization of having that prostate cancer, same as breast cancer, that of course you catch it quickly, and that way it can be treated quickly. So for those that are watching, next year when it rolls around, you can shave your head in September, and of course wear pink in October, and in November grow that facial hair to recognize that we do stand shoulder to shoulder with all those folks that are battling cancer. So with that, members of council, are there any questions or comments? With none, we'll move on to the regional council's report. Councillor Barrett, welcome.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few items this evening. The Niagara region is undertaking rehabilitation improvement works along Regional Road 5, which is Kalali Street, between Knoll Street and King Street. Currently, Kalali Street consists of 2 lanes with inconsistent curbs and sidewalks. Upgrading this section of road to an urban cross-section consisting of curb and gutter, sidewalks, bicycling facilities is the primary objective of this project. In addition, intersection upgrades, including turning lanes, where deemed necessary, will be incorporated. As the city knows, in addition to this road reconstruction project, the city of Port Colborne will be replacing the existing water main, rehabilitating sections of existing sanitary infrastructure, and adding stormwater infrastructure where required for future projects. A public information center will be held here at Council Chambers Wednesday, October 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. to allow members of the public an opportunity to review and provide comments into the planning and design of this project. Along the lines of public engagement, the Niagara region has made data available for public use. As part of the region's commitment to improving public engagement and enhancing transparency and accountability to residents, the region is providing public access to its data. Niagara residents can now access key statistics and data about the Niagara region. Open data makes government data available at no cost in machine-readable formats for citizens, private sector, and nonprofit organizations to reuse in innovative ways. This open data initiative is being launched as a pilot and is the first step in creating a foundation that encourages digital innovation, improved service delivery, stimulation of economic growth, and a better understanding of our regional services. Entrepreneurs, academics, policymakers, and community organizations are just a few of the groups that will benefit from the available information. Some of the initial data being released as part of the pilot include core natural heritage, agricultural land base, Niagara Trails, CIP project areas, which we have several in the city. Development charge exemption areas, also important. Building permits, urban boundary areas, War of 1812 and historical sites, road networks, et cetera, et cetera. So I encourage those in the public to take a look. It's on the region's website under open data. And again, it is a pilot, so use the information that is there or take a look, and there's an opportunity to provide feedback as well. Some of the an important event coming up with regards to our 1812 bicentennial events is the Niagara Signature 1812 event, Battle of Queenston Heights. One of 1812's most historically significant battles occurred on October 13th when American forces attacked at Queenston, killing the leader of the British forces, Major General Isaac Brock. This commemorative event will reenact the Battle of Queenston Heights, as well as the Burial of Brock, accompanied by 19th century period music. It's held October 13th, all day from 11 to 8:30 at Queenston Heights, and I encourage those history buffs to take full advantage of this opportunity. The only other thing I'd like to point out today, Mr. Mayor, is the region's curbside collection pilot for batteries. It's a 2-week pilot project that'll be coming up in the next couple of weeks, I believe the last 2 weeks of this month. And it's a partnership between the region, Emterra, Raw Materials Corp., and quite frankly, Stewardship Ontario as well. What it is essentially residential curbside pickup of batteries, household batteries. It's important for several reasons. One of the most important is it diverts these batteries and toxic metals from going into our landfills. So it's good for our residents, good for diversion. It's good for the region. It's a revenue. It could be a revenue generator for the region, as well as Raw Materials Corp., and it fits with Stewardship Ontario's guidelines. So I encourage residents in Port Colborne, also it'll be in Welland and Pelham will be the pilot area, to take full advantage of this pilot. We'd like to see it continue and grow for years to come. There's no other program like it in Ontario to date. However, Durham has learned that Niagara will be pursuing this, and they are certainly itching to grab the title of the first in Ontario to do this. Now, with Niagara deeming itself the green energy capital of Canada, I think it's appropriate that we complete this and get it going and make it a success. So that's my report for this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, David. Members of council, any questions or comments to the regional council? Councillor Bodner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Council Barrick. Just on the battery, is it, you said household, you're not talking car batteries, you're talking, does it include car batteries or just flashlight,
Councillor?
Okay.
Great, thank you. Yes, so household batteries like AA, AAA, Ds. There will be more information forthcoming. The region has press material coming out. You'll see information in the papers, and the relevant affected households should be getting direct mail piece from the region as well, outlining exactly which type of batteries should be included. And I believe residents are encouraged to use a plastic bag, Ziploc bag, and just to simply put it beside their blue bin. But that information will be out there.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you, Councillor Barrick. Further questions or comments, members? With that, great job, David. Thank you. Members of council, new business, councillors' items. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Worship. Just one, and it's in regards to the intersection at Main and Steele. Mr. Hanson isn't here this evening, but I see Jim is, and I was wondering if council would support us getting an audit on that intersection from the region in regards to safety. I had several calls after that accident. Again, I don't know how many times, I think it's the second or third time that house has been hit. I know Buckner's on the corner's been hit once, and I know the little variety store, grocery store has been hit. So I just think it's something that needs to be investigated. I don't know how many accidents over how many years, but I was just wondering if council would support doing an audit on that intersection, just for safety purposes.
Members of council, are there any questions or comments to that request? Councillor Elliott.
Who would pay? Excuse me, who would pay? It's a regional road, so I'm assuming that we're going to petition the region to do the study. If the region wants to take it on, by all means, let them do the study if they want to.
Members of council, we have consensus that gives staff direction to give the region a letter from operations requesting an audit. And of course, David and I will follow that up with our support of the region. That's fine. Everybody's good with that? Jim, you got that? We'll ask Joe over at the region, Cousins, to look at doing that. Request from members of council. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Anything further? Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to, I'll just say staff, I had the pleasure of attending the Niagara Bike Summit on Friday, and while there I learned a lot about bike lanes and about regional roads and how the region is more than willing to add bike lanes when they're redoing a road, and I know that Kalali is coming up. Kalali West is going to be done. I just wonder if there are plans to put that, to ask the region for that, or if that's already been done.
Mr. Upperman.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Desmarais. The Kalali Street reconstruction, the standard for the regional road is to put in a 1.5 meter bike lane as well as a 3.5 meter traveled lane. So anywhere they have a bikeways master plan. So any road that is on that master plan, they do, when they do reconstruct it or resurface it, they will add bike lanes to it typically. They also have, I believe they have funding for local roads that are within that master plan as well. So that's something that as we go through reconstructing our roads or resurfacing our roads, we can definitely look at if there is areas where we can add bike lanes to it. One of the things that kind of dictates when we do resurfacing is also the underground improvements that we need to do. So there's lots of factors that way.
Okay,
Thanks, Jim. Councillor?
Sorry, I just, do you know if a bike lane is planned for
Yes.
Kalali West? That's what
Yes,
I was
there
asking.
is.
Yes,
It
there is.
definitely
Yeah.
is?
Yeah.
That's great, thank you.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to report that this last weekend, the downtown BIA held their second annual Harvest Festival, which was a really great success. We had a lot of people out. The weather kind of cooperated. It was a little cooler than it was last year, a little bit windy, but still people came out. We had free things for kids to do in the park, face painting, pony rides for $2. Several sponsors that I have to thank. Bojo Pharmacy had their fall pictures again. The Mill Greenhouses set up the backdrop for it. TD Canada Trust came to town with a large canvas for kids to paint. It was all free. Fire department came over with Pumper. We had a couple of members of the fire department were situated on West Street. They had the kids go through them. We're telling people about carbon monoxide detectors, trying to promote that. They did actually get a couple of people to sign up, we saw while we were there. Really great event. Most of the things, except the ponies, were free. I really have to congratulate the retailers. They had sales on, they threw their doors open, they provided refreshments. They really bought into the Harvest Festival theme, so it's good to see that. Some decorated their windows with scarecrows, which seems to be a theme that is going to be running throughout the festival next year. Hopefully we started onto a good thing. If you get a chance and you're at the antique store on West Street, stop in, take a look at the scarecrow they have in the window. It's absolutely amazing. I don't know who thought of it, but they did a really good job. It's just good to see people downtown. There were several other events going on. The fire department had their open house, so we kind of partnered in with that. We had people out and about. And even to get people in shopping downtown when we're competing against Balls Falls and Vineland with their festivals, it was really good to see the amount of foot traffic that was out and about. So thank you for all those that supported it, and hopefully we have bigger and better things for next year.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions or comments, members? Members of staff, any updates? You're good? Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, you, Mr. Mayor. Our drainage superintendent's here tonight, and I think I didn't bring it up during council items because I thought maybe it'd be a staff item, but I think he has enlightened us with some information, if he might.
Henry, got some information for us? Come on up. Just for FYI for members of council and those out in the gallery and watching COGECO, we've been very much hard at work putting many applications together for the North Shore areas. I think we all share the same concern, especially after a hot summer, with respect to the condition of our shoreline. And Henry's been working diligently with 3 groups, Gravelly Bay, Cedar Bay, and Lorraine Bay individuals from those areas, as well as doing a lot of drainage maintenance plans and work to really look at addressing some of those concerns. So, Henry, we welcome your update today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Yeah, I was asked to come tonight. Just there were a few questions raised at last council meeting in regards to the Point Abino drain maintenance, the pending maintenance, and just to report to council that the town of Fort Erie is on board. I've been in further discussions with their drainage superintendent, and we anticipate getting notices out for pending maintenance here in the coming week. And I'm hoping by mid-November we'll have had sufficient time for the property owners to be aware of the maintenance and then to be shovel ready. There's some things with the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, some clearances that are required as normal practice. So I believe that was one of the questions. And the other was in regards to the near shore water quality issues along our shoreline. And as you have already explained, we're working with 3 groups, and actually we're trying to bring on a 4th, that being Silver Bay, and that's in regards to the burst drain. We have the report that I believe Councillor Butters referred to. That's the water quality options evaluation study. I have that now. I'm reviewing that, and I'm looking at what we might possibly be able to use in relationship to this grant. Preliminary figures, though, indicate that the cost of some of these water quality improvements are far in excess of the current funding program that's out there. So we might be switching gears. I've already been in discussions with the Lorraine Bay group in that regard, and there's in agreement that they want to move cautiously. And there's other funding programs coming out here. I think there was just another announcement today for some major funding in regards to some of the water quality issues along the Great Lakes. So that's pretty well what it stands. The study is still in a sort of preliminary stage. It needs a fair bit of work yet as well.
Great, thank you, Henry. Members of council, are there any questions or comments? Just to bring you further up to date, what I had done is I began a mayor's task force on the North Shore because we, throughout the years, have been faced with a lot of challenges, and this goes back almost a decade with one group, Lorraine Bay. But I thought it would be necessary because a lot of the issues were very similar, if not all the issues were similar. And with that, I felt it necessary, instead of having different groups working in silos and on their own, that we in fact bring Lorraine, Cedar, Silver Bay together, as well as Gravelly Bay, all together to deal with some of these issues that they're experiencing. I think all you have to do is drive down the North Shore, anywhere between Fort Erie and Windsor, and you'll recognize that the problem exists all the way down the shoreline. It's just a matter of now recognizing what it is that's causing this problem, where it's coming from, and of course finally the solutions that we can put in place, not only here in Port Colborne, but across the entire North Shore to deal with the problem. Is it going to happen overnight? No. It's going to take some time, but I think that ball has to start rolling somewhere, and we're starting that now. We're also working in tandem with the Mayor's Cities Initiative. So with being on that committee myself, we're working with mayors from all over both countries, Canada and United States, especially as it relates to the Great Lakes and especially as it relates to the Lake Erie Basin. So that's well underway, and I thank you, Henry, as well as Darlene Sutter downstairs on the second floor for being a part of that process. As you said, it's going to take some dollars, it's going to take some time, but I think ultimately by working it together throughout the entire municipality, and again working shoulder to shoulder with those folks within the Mayor's Initiative, I think we're going to start seeing some results sooner rather than later. So great work.
You're welcome.
Thank you, members of council, and thank you, Henry. We'll now move on to members of staff. Any further updates? Dan, you sure you're good? I don't want to bypass you here. Go. Members, I am going to look for a motion to adopt the minutes of the 22nd meeting regular of Committee of the Whole, and that is dated September 24th, 2012. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kenny, Councillor Desmarais, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We'll now move on to those items requiring a separate discussion. We'll start off with item 1. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. The council approves an immediate $10,000 capital incentive grant to Mapleview Medical Clinic for the outfitting infrastructure improvements needed for 2 examination rooms for the memory clinic, opening and touring optics for physician recruitment purposes, and that the cost be funded from the medical and physician recruitment reserve, and that the clerk be authorized and directed to prepare and present the appropriate contract.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Desmarais. Before I go to your question, Councillor, I'm going to allow Ms. Faracholi to give us a bit of background on this. Joanne, welcome.
Thank you. As you all, I'm sure, have heard through some of the little scuttlebutt going on, we are at a bit of a crossroads. We're at a critical point in physician recruitment. We currently have no physicians that are accepting new patients. So while we're at a very exciting time with the opening of many new clinics and many new ancillary healthcare servicing, one of the biggest projects that we've been working on is our memory clinic. The memory clinic is a clinic that is a Port Colborne memory clinic. So all of our physicians can refer to it. It's a huge collaborative effort between our pharmacists, our social workers, our nurses, our physicians, and all the way down to Community Support Services of Niagara, who are here tonight. It's to help keep seniors at home and to understand where their memory loss is occurring. The memory clinic is going to be housed at Mapleview Medical Clinic. I don't know if some of you I know are patients of Mapleview. It's not fully outfitted as of yet. And that's where the memory clinic is going to be, and some of our other clinics that we have opened up, such as we now have a dermatology clinic here for all of the citizens of Port Colborne that can be referred to. That's at Mapleview as well. We are also entering into a COPD asthma clinic as well that will also be housed there. When we went back to our committee, the Physician Recruitment Committee, we realized that in order to recruit physicians, which we are going to be needing to replace Dr. Prue, who recently relocated, and the impending retirement of some of our older physicians, it's a lot easier to recruit into something that looks nice. So if you can go tour a physician and say, this is where you're going to be practicing, it's a lot. If it looks like a medical clinic, it is a medical clinic. And in the past, we've simply handed over an incentive incentive program to a physician, and in turn asked for a return of service. That's not really the way that the Canadian Association of Staff Physician Recruiters and our own Physician Recruitment Committee wishes to proceed. They would like to see the money used as a long-term recruitment tool and put the money into something that stays in Port Colborne. And when we knew we needed the space for the different clinics, we also realized that we need something that's tangible to recruit a physician to. And that's an examining room that looks like an examining room that will be used as an examining room. So it's the wish of the committee and the advisement of myself that we outfit 2 examining rooms with examining room tables and vital boards for the purpose of operating the ancillary clinics that are for all physicians in Port Colborne and for the purposes of recruiting physicians into a visually appealing clinic.
Thank you, Joanne. Well done. Members of council, any questions or comments to Joanne with respect to her presentation? With none, Councillor Elliott.
I was going to call Joanne up, that's why I pulled it, because we had a conversation before the council meeting. I read it and I couldn't understand why the change in the funding model, and then Joanne explained it, and great presentation. It's good to see that we're on the forefront of keeping one step ahead of everybody to attract physicians. I'm one of the patients that had his doctor leave town, so I know where it stands on trying to get a new one, because when Dr. Prue first came to town, I was on the interview list to become a patient. So you answered all my questions beforehand, and then again, just reiterated that what we talked about. It's just good to see that the physician recruitment team is on the forefront of attracting new people into town. So that's why I pulled it, just to let everybody know what the funding model had changed to and what it had been. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments or questions? With none, Joanne, great job, as always. I keep saying that to you. It's just over and over and over. Give her a raise, will you, Bob?
That comes at budget time. We'll talk about it.
But I think the one thing that, Joanne, you and I have talked often about that team approach with respect to our docs working with the ancillary services. Something I spoke about actually in the Tribune the other day, on Friday, with respect to really bringing together those pathways and getting away from the traditional, more into the team approach. Our docs working with the ancillary, working with our UCC, and of course with that, making more of those services available to our residents. So good on you, great job, and we hope for bigger and better as time goes on. So great work, Joanne.
Thank you. We are touring 3 physicians in the month of October, so let's cross our fingers.
Thanks, Joanne. Great work. Members, we'll now move on to the second item lifted. Yes. Thank you, Bob. Are there any further questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We'll now move on to item 3. Councillor Elliott.
Better pass that one.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Item 3 is that Council of the City of Port Colborne directs the City Treasurer to submit an expression of interest for the Municipal Infrastructure Investment Initiative funding for asset management, and 2, that the City Treasurer certifies that the information in the expression of interest is factually accurate, and that the development of an asset management plan will include all of the information and analysis described in the Building Together Guide for Municipal Asset Management Plans, and 3, that this funding for the asset management plan is a priority for the City of Port Colborne to ensure a sustainable asset management planning policy.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Kenny. Mr. Sinez, if you can give us a breakdown of this report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Through you, this grant program is for the asset management plan. It's something that we've been striving towards, and lo and behold, the government has come forward with a grant program for a minimum of $20,000 to establish to help us establish the asset management plan on a go-forward basis. This expression of interest is a requirement of receiving the grant. So it includes a number of questions that as to how we would spend the funding, and it is a program that is for municipalities under 20,000 in population, and also depending on how many municipalities actually apply for it, the funding could go from 20,000 maybe to 25,000. So we're looking to put this expression of interest in to the ministry, receive that funding, and then be able to use that funding to have consultant work with us to actually develop that plan, determine what the priorities are, what the this whole plan is based on a guideline that was provided by the provincial government, and they have certain areas that they want to see within the plan that we have to address. And with that, we are required to have this asset management plan in place in order to receive future funding from the province. And the province will be looking that anything that is established by council as priority, that it fits in with that asset management plan. And if it does and meets the criteria, then if there's funding by the province, equal funding or third funding, 2/3 funding, however they come out with the dollars over the next couple of years, that we have the plan in place and the priorities in place, and it will help council also in their budgeting process on a go-forward basis. And then in order to establish future funding that we will be able to tap into for infrastructure needs such as roads and water and wastewater and bridges. Those are their 4 main categories of infrastructure. It's not the pretty infrastructure, but it's infrastructure that the province and the federal government and municipalities know that we need to put some money towards. Doesn't discount our other assets, which are, our buildings and our vehicles and equipment and so on. They are priorities too, and those are things that we'll be bringing forward in budget to show council sort of where we stand with regard to our amortization, the amount of funding that we provide within our budget in order to replace a lot of our assets on a go-forward basis. So this is the start of that program, and so it will take a little time to get the ball rolling, and it obviously won't be ready for 2013 budget, but we were hoping that the asset management plan will then, once we get this, will be completed and be available for the 2014 budget, although I will be bringing something to the 2013 budget. It won't be as detailed as the actual asset management plan that we'll be bringing forward.
Thank you, Peter. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I brought this up at, I think, the last council meeting about the asset management plan. At the AMO convention, it was one of the top of mind things. It was in the forefront for Minister Chiarelli, who's the infrastructure minister. They kept promising $36 billion over the next 3 years for infrastructure. And then they also tossed in that the federal government was only putting in $6 billion across the country, but the feds don't look after roads and bridges and schools and whatnot. So, but the $36 billion really got my attention, as did this plan. It really is something that we're going to have to take a look at, that we're going to have to prioritize. This is going to be huge going forward, because the province is going to look at your capital asset management plan, and they're going to fund you according to what you've got in your plan. So for all municipalities that haven't been looking after their infrastructure, they're going to go on the back burner. And people that have a plan and are moving forward, I think it was when Commissioner Hutchings was here a few months ago, and I had asked them about water, wastewater infrastructure and how we're replacing in the programs that we got in place. And where do we stand against other municipalities? We're in the top third or the top quarter through the region on how we're replacing infrastructure and what we're doing to minimize our losses. That's stuff that we get to trumpet out against the province to say, hey, look, we're doing our job. Yeah, we're a small municipality and we need your help. Whereas other municipalities in Niagara may say, we need lots of money, but we really haven't fixed any of the infrastructure as of yet. Can you help us out? And they're going to tell them, well, you know what, you haven't been doing anything. Why should we give you more money than anybody else? So I think this is a major component for us going forward, is that we have to develop this plan. I'm glad to see us apply for the grant. There's 350 awards going on, I think it is, for municipalities. I'm hoping that we get one. I don't think there would be any reason why we shouldn't. I'd like to see us max out at the 25,000 just to get it going, to get us going. But this, I think, is going to be a huge tool for us, not only to fix things that we have in capital assets, but also in the budgeting process, so that we know what our priorities are and we can set the budget and we can set priorities going forward. So this is, I think this is huge going forward.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions or comments on this report? Great work, Peter. Great work. I think Councillor Elliott said it best. I think the bottom line here is that this community, through the past few decades, with the help of staff, has been very much responsible with respect to our investments to infrastructure, ensuring that we have up-to-date infrastructure. I know, geez, back in 1994 when we first got on council, do you remember that? We had an infrastructure that was dating back to 1912, wooden pipes in the ground, things of that nature. Our infiltration was just huge. And so we've come a long way. We've come a long way. And with that, I think what this also attaches itself to is sustainability, so that councils 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now will also benefit from not only the investments that we have made, but also the dollars that we're putting into the bank to really ensure that those investments and those assets are sustainable, because the investments that are able to be then contributed toward because of the monies that we'll be putting away in the future. So good work and great job from your department and operations as well. Jim, you guys, great work. So with that, members of council, no further questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 5. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council approves the issuance of an RFP call based on the general items outlined in Special Projects and Corporate Strategic Initiatives Report number 2012-07, and that Council approves the changes proposed to procedures at the Marina and with subsequent lease operations as detailed in this report. And further, that council approves the extension of the Port Colborne Marine lease until June 30th, 2013.
Thank you, Councillor. Have a seconder to that, please. Councillor Kenny, questions or comments? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I got a few questions about this. I guess number one is the RFP says a 7-year lease with a renewable 7 years. Generally, we've been going on 5-year leases. I could think of the Y has got a 20-year lease, 5-year terms, renewable. The Don Cherry's Restaurant has a 5-year lease, renewable for 5. This goes to 7 years, and I'm just wondering why we went to 7. Basically, if we go to 7 years and it starts in 2013, it's going to run through the term of the next council that comes in, and that can really handcuff them because they don't have an opportunity to say anything. So I'd just like to know why we went to 7 years.
Mr. Vincent, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the reason for 7 years is that it was a discussion that I had with council and with the current operator, trying to find an investment window when capital dollars might be put in by the private sector, and the argument being made that a 5-year lease is too small. In fact, the 10-year lease was the preferred option. However, this is strictly council's direction, so if council wishes to stick with the norm, if you call the 5-year lease a norm, I don't have an objection to it.
Thank you, Mr. Vincent. Councillor?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Cecil. I would hate to handicap the next council coming in. I mean, you know what, because the 7 years would run starting at 13, runs through 20. Elections are in 14. So that carries the next term of council. I'd like to give them at least an opportunity. I'd like to see it reduced to 5. Capital outlay you're talking about in the building itself that they would invest in?
Well, actually, there's been discussions with not only this lessee, but the previous lessee about expanding the winter storage area. So fencing would have to be, and I think the report speaks to temporary fencing rather than permanent fencing. The other issue is the current movable lift is old and was, I guess, somewhat jerry-rigged when it was built in the first place. There is some indication that we could attract larger boats if, in fact, an investment was made in a heavier lift piece of equipment. My attitude is that I don't think the city wants to be putting those kinds of new capital dollars in, but we would certainly encourage, if we can, the private sector to do it, since they get the majority of the return. So once again, Councillor, this is not written in stone, and quite honestly, the RFP itself will generate either a positive response or not, and we may find that the private sector is just not interested, in which case you'll have time to modify the term of the lease.
Mr. Howe?
Your Worship, Council will recall when we did the 5-year term with the restaurant, there was a little angst because there was a contribution requested for capital. That's not the case with a little longer term. So it's part of the discussion to try to keep our dollars out of the capital and to encourage a little bit of investment by potential lessees to invest their own money so that they could recover it over time. Hence the reason for just a little longer term. And as was indicated, 10 was suggested, and we kind of drew the line at 7 at this one. So it seems like it might work, hence the reason for 7.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Councillor?
Thank you, Mayor. When we're talking about increased in storage for winter storage, it says in here that we're changing the model that we will become the payee for winter storage. So we're going to collect the revenue off the storage?
Again, perhaps I wasn't quite as clear as I should be. The billing practice is really what I'm talking about that we should change. In the last transition that occurred between lessees, a large number of the boats that were stored with us were removed by the then lessee on the basis that the actual contract for winter storage, even though it was on city property and under a city lease, from their opinion, was with that company. We take an opposite opinion. However, we did not pursue any legal action, and I don't know what a court would actually say. So I don't want to imply that there was any wrongdoing on the other party. I'm saying we have a different interpretation. to clarify that, what this proposal is, that we'd actually become the billing agent. It would be a contract with the city, but the same revenue sharing would occur with the lessee. They would also still have to provide the insurance and the moving of the equipment.
Okay.
Counselor?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. I didn't know if it was a different model when it said about the previous one, and then going forward, I didn't know whether we were changing, obviously we collect the money, but if it's generally all the revenue to us, or we're sharing with the lessee, that's what I didn't understand. Okay. When we talk about the building itself, and that there were some repairs when the new lessee took over, and that there was some upgrades that had to be done. It says that from now on we'll have an annual inspection. I'd like to see it written in that while we are the landlord, generally we're responsible for the box itself, for the construction of it, the maintenance of it, of the four walls, the roof, air conditioning and heat, and the water barrier, so that it doesn't leak inside. Going from there, anything inside the walls will be the total responsibility of the lessee. Any improvements that want to be made will be made by the lessee at their expense, and that if they want us to do the capital upgrades, it'll be a 100% leasehold improvement with interest paid on the leasehold improvements. We'll have to go out and borrow money to make leasehold improvements. We should recapture any costs that are borne by us at 100% plus interest recapture rate. I don't want to have anybody go in the year after, whoever wins the bid, and say, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want you to do it for me. That's great, but I want any improvements as leasehold improvements. We'll look after the box. They can look after the inside on anything they want to do, pending approval by us. And it says too that we want to have somebody go and inspect the building. Will it be a third-party inspector, mutually agreed upon by us and the lessee, or who are we going to have go inspect the building on a yearly basis?
Mr. Mayor, to you as a councillor, it was my desire that it would be somebody from our own staff, probably a public works employee, or who has the skill sets of certain areas, probably somebody as well from the CBO's office or that area. Again, I want to make sure I'm not creating the wrong impression here. In the transfer of one to the other, certain things were removed as they were entitled to be removed. When they were removed, we were able to see certain problems that had perhaps been long-standing and just not seen. And so really what I'm trying to get at here is to minimize damage by having basically a walk-through, look around, make sure there's nothing untoward happening, and assigning the cost to fix based upon whose responsibility it is, as the councillors pointed out. So again, I'm not suggesting as part of the changes here, assigning any blame to anything that's happened in the past, but addressing the issues that we've discovered and putting in a process by which we can prevent them happening in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Vincent. Councillor?
Thank you. Yeah, and I wasn't assessing blame. I want us to make sure that going forward, that we lock it down, that, you know what, we're looking after your building. Anything inside those four walls, save for the apartment, because I think we're keeping the apartment as a rental income for us. Are we leasing out the
Mr.
apartment?
Vincent?
No, that still continues as a part of the building, and that's an attraction for somebody to put the bid in.
Yeah.
You know, again, I would point out to the councillor that locking it down is only as good as the court's interpretation of how you blocked it down. But
Yeah.
the intent, I understand,
Yeah.
certainly.
Okay. And just, I guess, the one other thing that's kind of jumps off the page at me is point 3, and it's about the service suppliers coming in and doing work on somebody's boat. It says there is in place a workplace passport certificate which can be purchased from the arena, permits certain services to be supplied. Goes down on, and it says the RFP proposes a new approach to this issue with an expansion of a workplace passport certificate available to potential service providers. This will require that any provider who is asked by a slip owner to provide services to a boat while in a marina slip must first obtain approval from the marina manager. We will also require that slip owners to sign to confirm the service provider in question as being so engaged. The service provider will be required to provide to the marine manager a copy of the invoice issued for the work to the marina manager, along with a fee equivalent to that collected by the city on the in-house P3 services. Terminology to reflect this change is currently being discussed among staff, and the final RFP and lease will be adjusted to reflect this change. I guess the one question is, does somebody have to hand over a contract between them and a service provider to us? Is that a legal thing to do, to ask for?
It's certainly my opinion that the city, as the owner of the property, is entitled to set the rules that you, if you want to come onto my property, have to obey. The analogy here would be if you had a garage that was servicing GM cars and you had your mechanics in there and somebody pulled up and said, I want to put my car in and my buddy over here is going to go work on it. I don't think that's in the private sector allowed. I don't know why we would allow it in the public sector. For two reasons. One, we have an in-house bidder who has won the right to provide certain services. Now, at the same time, I don't think it's fair, and it certainly doesn't help our customers if they are forced to deal with only one provider. And so what we're attempting to do here is to say, here's a mechanism, level playing field. The other thing that needs to be included in the RFP is evidence that the person being brought in is in fact qualified to do the work and has insurance. Because if somebody comes in, goes to work on a gas engine in a boat and catches everything on fire, and we've let them there without checking their credentials, the city's going to get sued. We may get sued anyway, but at least we have put up a proper track to ensure that we are doing due diligence on those kinds of efforts.
Thanks. I like the option to have somebody else. You know what? Basically, you're leasing out the building as an opportunity. We're providing customers at your doorstep for you, but I don't want to force people to go to somebody, you know, you get a $200,000 or $300,000 boat. I may not want him to work on it. I may want somebody else. And I like that opportunity for somebody to bring their own mechanic in or whatever it may be. The only other question I had, two other ones. One being, when it says a fee equivalent to that collected by the city, what's the fee?
We get a percentage of the revenue earned within the private sector operator's business. It's based on gross revenues. We'll have to go back historically and calculate what that's turned out to be. You know, I don't want to throw a number up right now because that number may be incorrect. But the intent is to try to level the playing field, I guess is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, okay. And I guess the last thing is just to bring it all in together. Several times it says that, it says under attachments, language to reflect this is still under discussion will be added to the draft RFP attached. And yet we're supposed to approve the RFP to go out tonight. We're actually going to put forward a motion to accept an extension of the lessee for 6 months. And yet we're going to approve something that's not complete. That language may change, that things are omitted, that we're going to research and incorporate into the RFP as it goes out. And I'm thinking, if we're going to extend their lease by 6 months to June the 30th of 13, why do we need to rush this out for a November 1st call? Why can't it go until December, January, until we get the whole RFP ironed out, all the language ironed out, bring it back to council, we'll have our approval, and then send it out. I don't know if a month or 2 months is going to make much of a difference if the lease is going to start on July the 1st. And just your opinion on that.
Mr. Vincent?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the councillor, again, what I was looking for from council tonight was general agreement with the direction, and the reason why it says that the RFP is still in process is that effect. You will have the right to approve the RFP when it's returned, either in full or in part. If you prefer to defer the actual issuance, I don't have a problem with that either. I'm saying that we're trying to set some timelines so council can expect the results and can monitor what's going on. The extension in the current lessee is to reflect two things. One, we extended the last lessee at his request prior to starting the new lessee, so we ended up, instead of a 12-month lease, we ended up with a little over a 10.5-month lease. The other thing is things, I think, are difficult to do midwinter. We're not operating effectively. So I again, decided that the best time, if there's going to be a changeover, hopefully It won't be for 7 years after this one, or 5 years, whichever council chooses. It'll be midsummer. The boats are all in the harbor. Everybody's having a good time. There'll be a couple of months here when you can actually have a transition in the actual person that's lifting out or putting boats in without having a negative impact on the users, which are the people with the slips. So I don't have a problem if council wants to adjust the issue date. That was my suggestion. If it can be issued in mid-January, that's fine with me. Certainly some of these issues need to be, the language has to be ran past the solicitor to make sure that they are enforceable. You know, we have an RFP that was, I guess, developed about 3.5 years ago that had considerable input at that time. Since then, we've been modifying, tweaking it ourselves a bit. So that was my reason and concern for not actually trying to sit down and say, here's the language that I think works.
Thank you, Mr. Vincent. Councilor?
Thank you, Mr. Vincent. Yeah, personally, and I don't want to speak for anybody else, I would be more comfortable with having something, a full document in front of me before I approve it. And you tell me how long it would take to do that, whether it be a month or two. I really don't think that a month or two extension on the call for the RFP is going to make much of a difference. I'm under the assumption that the lessee that's in place right now is agreeing to the 6-month extension. I don't see anything in the report that says that they have. And contained in the report, it says that if we go for a 7-year contract, that we will review the performance of the lessee on an annual basis. Have we reviewed the lessee that's in place now for this past year on their performance? And again, are they in line to go for the 6-month extension?
Mr. Heil?
Your Worship, the timing in here, and I can understand Council's interest in the timing. The current contract ends on December the 31st. We got a tender regardless. This request for extension buys us the time to follow with Council's more recent direction, rather than put the whole thing out for public, but to run the marina ourselves. That's the revised direction that Council gave a little over a month ago. We've been working quite diligently in trying to find a way to make this work. So some of the, I'm going to say, less favorable conditions that we've experienced in the past while can be corrected. And that's what Mr. Vincent has been working on. We will need to go to tender now for January the 1st, unless you're prepared to extend on January the 1st, the current operator that's in our service bureau right now. At this point in time, we have no reason to be concerned with what we've had. I think everybody's been satisfied, the marina staff, and I think Mr. Sinnes could probably speak more to it, having had firsthand interaction as the marina manager reports directly to him. He could speak to the service manager that we have right now. We're satisfied the way it is, and the extension will in fact buy us the time to finish drafting the RFP in accordance with this, get it to our legal counsel for final verification, call for the proposals, review them all, analyze them all, and bring the documents back to you complete, including everything that's in this report, so that you're going to have a full package, and you can make a determination at that time, I would presume in the next 4 months. It's not going to happen in a month. We have work to do yet on this RFP to make sure our lawyers are happy. We're just trying to get this to the point where we're not without an operator on January the 1st, 2013. That's where we don't want to be.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. We have 3 recommendations, and if I'm reading the councilor properly, he wants to see a 4th attached to it with respect to bringing this back to council. We have the first recommendation is there. We have it in front of us that City Council approves the issuance of an RFP called based upon the general terms outlined in Special Projects and Corporate Strategic Initiatives, report number 2012-07. We have a second recommendation, and that Council approves the changes proposed to procedures at the marina and with subsequent lease operations as detailed within this report. We have recommendation number 3, and further that Council approves the extension of Colborne Marine and their lease until June 30th, 2013. And Councillor Elliott, what I'm hearing is that you'd like to place an amendment to this recommendation that asks staff to bring this back to council prior to issuing the actual RFP. Okay, so that's what I'm hearing, Councillor Elliott?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. If we're going to go with the extension, with this 6-month extension, I don't see why we don't need to rush with the RFP. So we'll do one step and then we can do the other one, get it all together. I got no doubt that you can craft it perfectly. But I would just rather see a full RFP before I approve it and before we go out with it. And if that's 6-month extension, and I'm assuming that the lessee right now is acceptable with the 6-month extension?
Mr. Vincent?
The lessee has been asked if he would accept an extension. He has indicated if council approves one, he will.
Okay. Then I would do that and add that amendment that we redraft the RFP to its fullest and add a date. 2 months? A couple of months? Is it going to take that long?
Mr. Vincent?
Certainly, I'll make an attempt to have it in council's hands by the end of November, first middle of December. As far as the issuing date goes, if council is more comfortable having seen the full RFP and the full lease agreement, which is really the other side of it, which is putting in place what the bid is, you know, we can have a lease issued in January, or I'm sorry, an RFP issued in January, which is the new year, because we still have approximately 5.5 months. The normal process, if you go to an RFP, the issue, though, I'm in caution here, is if you don't get bidders based upon the new layout, if you will, then council needs to revisit the issue. So you don't want it so close to the end that you're under the gun. So I would suggest that we probably have the latest date would be probably 1st of February for the issuance of the RFP.
Thank you, Mr. Vincent. So we do. Yeah. I have an amendment on the floor. If I can have a seconder to that amendment, let me just put the amendment on the floor first. Yeah, we do have amendment. If I can have a seconder to that amendment, please. Councillor Bodnar, questions or comments to the amendment? Councillor Kenny, go ahead.
Your Worship, it's not to the amendment, but it was to point 3 in our, which we received in our in the report. And I see about the workplace passport certificate. Can we attach also to that? Because I had some concerns from people who had some slip owners who said they wanted to bring their own personnel or own people on board to do their boat. But I think they should also be on there that they have to carry a certain amount of insurance. Just because, just like you said, if they cause damage, I would like to make sure that that's added in someplace, because anybody that has a small business has to carry a certain amount of insurance, and I think those same people, if they're doing boat repair, should have to have the same.
Thank you,
just in case there's not an explosion and 5 other boats get blown up at the same time or whatever.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Vincent?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the councillor, that indeed is one of the issues that is being worked on. You know, I think what I'm trying to do is find the middle ground between, I won't call it competing interests, but certainly different views of how the marina should run. And we want, you know, in this business, you have to look after the customer. He or she is the people that we have to try to do the deal with. And they've indicated to our marina manager and others that they do want to have some access that provides to other, you know, maybe somebody that services Honda versus somebody that services another type of motor, as an example. And I think we have to try to allow that. And at the same time, if you're going to ask somebody to put in a bid on a long-term relationship, you have to give them some protection that it isn't just somebody popping down, running out who claims to be a mechanic and in fact does some damage and then blames it on somebody else. So that's an issue, you know, credentials, insurance, and we have to be able to monitor people coming and going. You know, when nighttime happens and people go out there, they have to know that they are going to be personally liable, not the city, because we will have in place a requirement that says you cannot do it. If you do, you're operating illegally. That's really the bottom line.
Thank you, Mr. Vincent. Back to the amendment. Are there any questions or comments to the amendment? All those in favor to the amendment? Opposed? That would be carried. Back to the main motion as amended. Councillor Bodnar.
When are we going, Councillor brought up a few points, some that I'm not quite in agreement with, but when are we going to have this discussion on those points? At another meeting that will give Mr. Vincent some, thoughts on the way we want to go, 7 years versus 5 years or whatever?
Councillor,
Or
you
is
have a
this-
choice. You can raise them now, or you can wait till the final RFP document comes to council.
Yeah, I'd kind of like a full council here to, to throw some ideas around. I think it's
Right.
always better if that happens. But anyways, I just wondered where that
It's your-
process stood.
Thank you, Councillor Bodnar. It's your choice. You can bring it today, bring it up tonight, and we can discuss some of those points that Councillor Elliott brings up, or we can wait till the RFP, the final document comes before council. So I'll leave that up to you. Go ahead, Councillor.
I guess what I'm worried about, the final document's going to come, and then we're going to want to change some of it again, and then it's going to go back, possibly, for a little bit of a rewrite.
So you can bring it up tonight if you want.
Yeah.
Some of the concerns that you,
Well, I will.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
door's wide open.
Okay. Councilor Elliott was concerned about 7 years, and I think some of the councilors' concern was that the next council would be handicapped in some way. Through you to Mr. Vincent, if the operator of the marina went rogue in 3 years and started doing crazy things, is there an option to, for lack of a better word, get rid of them by the next council for, cause?
Mr. Vincent?
Through Mr. Mayor, through the councillor, yes, the current lease, in fact, provides for those kinds of opportunities, if you want to call them opportunities, or those kinds of enforcement rules. If the lessee is to follow the lease, so if the lessee, as an example, didn't pay his annual rent, we could cancel the lease. If the lessee were allowing activities that are specifically prohibited within the lease to occur, we could cancel the lease. As far as the time goes, that can occur as a result of an annual end of the year review and getting finances, or it can occur in the middle of a year. I don't want to get into trying to analyze each point, but direct answer to your question is yes, there are provisions within the current lease that allows the city, on the basis of noncompliance, to cancel the lease effectively immediately.
Councillor?
So I guess on that point, I got a certain comfort level with 7 years, and kind of being in, not this business, but a similar situation where you want a certain length of time when you commit to a business and you're buying equipment and you're making improvements. You have to see a time frame to have these pay off, and I think that'll be what the new operator will be looking for. What opportunity do I have to, to make a living at this and make some investment and pay off some, what will be possibly substantial investment in this. So I don't want to limit us by getting a good operator because they don't see the opportunity being only 5 years, albeit there's an extension possibility. So I think I have comfort level with 7, knowing that there is an out if there is really serious concerns with the operator. So just to that point. And the other point, and I wasn't sure, Councillor, whether you were happy with an outside mechanic, for lack of a better term, coming in and having to pay the same percentage that the person that is there for the entire season pays, or did you not want to see an outside mechanic come in and have to pay a little bit to service a boat? Anyways, my take on it is that the outside person coming in should have to pay the same amount, if not more, than the person that is there for the entire season through good times and bad, and not just coming in and grabbing a job and going. So I think that's an important issue also. So those are just 2 things I wanted to get out there.
Thank you, Councillor. That's actually a fair comment. Mr. Vincent, anything you wanted to comment on?
No, and I appreciate both councilors' comments, and I will certainly take them under advisement when I'm preparing the language and see if I can find something that works in both cases for that matter. And at the end of the day, as you know, council will have to make the decision on what terms are going to be offered to a private sector bidder. It's not staff, it has to be you, and you need to understand what those terms are so that you can hopefully support them when the issues come up, because they do come up. It's one thing I've learned in dealing with the private sector over the years is that they're, when it comes to business, a very smart crew, and you need to be careful what you put in paper.
Smart's a careful word. Members of council, further questions or comments? Councillor Danch.
I just got one for you, Cease. I am looking at what the service provider is allowed to do, and I just wonder if it's going to come up in conversation with him. Do you want to take control of the marina and just run it for a percentage and have the city get out of this? I just wonder if that's in the cards at all.
Mr. Vincent?
In fact, I don't want to say anything, but we did discuss this with council about a month ago, and my recommendation to council, let me go back in history just a little bit. I mean, the initial idea was to learn as much as we could as a city about how a marina actually functions. We'd only run a very small part of the marina, which was basically a building with a restaurant in and some slips. We had no information on how gasoline sales work, how lifting and lift outs work, and those kinds of arrangements. So the last 3 years has been effectively a learning exercise for staff. Members of council may have had much better knowledge than we did. Having said that, I think in my mind, and I expressed this to council, I felt uncomfortable in being able to write a document or enforce a document that would control all the issues. And I think those issues are quite evident across Canada, not only here, but in any private sector company operating a public utility, a public facility. It's just a very complicated process, because you have to remember the private sector's bottom line is that they may have a limited 7 or 10 year period to make as much profit as they can. So one of the issues is how do you get your facility kept maintained? How do you in fact control that? And so I've taken the approach and recommended to council, and I believe they've accepted, that we should maintain public ownership of this public beach or public area, and instead try to maximize our revenue from private sector co-management, but not the full operation. And that's the basis this report was written on.
Councillor? That's fine. Okay. Any further? I had you, Councillor, or Kenny. I'm going to go back to Councillor Elliott and back to you. Councillor Elliott?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things, Councillor Bodner. The 7-year term, what I was looking at is that if it's the will of the next council to tender the whole marina operation out, what's it cost us to get out of the lease? Not if he's in compliance. I mean, you've got a lease of 7 years, which does run through the next term of council. If the next council deems that they want to get rid of the marina and have it all out for tender, you've got somebody under lease, and now you got to break the lease. So there's going to be a penalty. As far as somebody that's outside coming in working a boat, it doesn't state what the percentage that is the fee to come and work on the boat. If I'm a businessman and I own the shop and I'm paying a percentage back to the landlord for having my shop there, well, my fees are going to include that 3.579% kickback that it cost me to operate there. You know, my rates are going to be that much higher because I'm paying some of that back out. You know, now you got to factor that in. The only problem that I saw with us taking a bill from an outside mechanic to go down and fix a boat, how much is the bill? You know, the guy goes down, he does a tune-up that costs you $800 to the owner, and he submits a bill for $200. You know, how are you going to dispute the bill? You know, that's what I saw. And I don't even boat. I mean, I don't even know what goes on down there, but when I saw that you got to remit a bill to the marina manager for the work that you're doing, here's the bill I'm giving you, and here's the bill that I'm giving to the boat owner. okay, am I paying you 10% of this one? That's great. And that's why, what I was looking at, what do you, how are we charging guys?
Mr. Mayor, again,
Mr.
to the
Vincent?
councillor, I think you've identified the issue as clearly as anybody can about trying to tie down the P3 arrangement, not the P3 operator, just the arrangement. Because the bottom line is the bottom line in any business, and rightly so, by the way. I mean, if they go out of business, they're out of business. They don't have a job. They don't have a family income. So I don't have any issues with that. I'm just saying that I'm cautious. I'm trying to caution council in taking that quantum leap, if I could call it that, with the full. The other thing is, to speak specifically to your point, that particular arrangement requires 3 people to collude. It requires the tenant, our person that's renting a slip from us. It requires the mechanic to issue a separate bill. That's illegal. That's you know, hopefully we'll discover that and somebody will pay the price for it. We're depending on the basic honesty of our slip owners, slip renters, who are, you know, people that enjoy the benefit of our marina, to, again, follow the same rules that we're asking the P3 operator to do. If they choose to mislead or provide documents that are incorrect, I hope as an auditor formally that we catch them and they pay the appropriate price for it. But there's no guarantees. I mean, there's...
Thank you, Mr. Vincent. Councilor Elliott?
Would we be further ahead, and I was kind of trying to rationalize this out too, would we be further ahead to charge straight rent to the service provider and not collect a percentage?
Mr. Vincent?
Again, the service provider is, you know, that's a dollars and cents issue. We do have a requirement in the lease that we get a copy of an audited financial statement. So again, we have a third party there verifying as far as you can. I mean, cash transactions can occur in any business. I don't mean to, again, besmirch the business community. They can occur. If they do, you know, you may be fooling us, but you're fooling the tax man as well. So there are all kinds of risks in that behavior, but it does happen. I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't. All I'm saying here is that, you know, the issue that I'm trying to address is we've had questions from the boating public saying that particular, whether it's the current one or the last one, doesn't service my type of boater. I've never dealt with them. If you restrict me, I got to pull my boat out and take it to St. Catharines. So we're trying to find a model that will allow, under control as best we can, a better access, but doesn't prevent. If somebody wants to do something illegal, there's nothing I can do to stop it, nothing that council can do. They're going to do it. The best we can do is catch them.
Councilor Kenny?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm in favor of the 7 years. I think it makes it more attractive when we go out with, you know, for a person coming in, and they need that time to really to see if they can make money at this business. And so I think the 7 years gives them that opportunity, and I think it makes it more attractive. And as far as, you know, like I said, I've had inquiries about why they couldn't have a certain mechanic come to the marina and fix it, and I think they should pay that fee. You know, the individual running that business for us is going to pay us a fee based on his books that are audited. And so if a private person comes in, your own private mechanic or whoever you have, that's the guy you want Sam and you don't want anybody else, then Sam should submit a bill so that we know what it is and take our percentage, and I'm in favor of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions or comments? I have to make some. I wasn't going to, but I have to because the discussion has evolved. And I have to say that, first off, we have to be in the mindset that this is our business. This is our business that we're the guardians of on behalf of the shareholders, which are the taxpayers. And we can't jeopardize their business, our business. And being in that mindset, we have to eliminate the challenges that limits the potential of operators that will come on board to partner with us. It's a very capital-intensive operation. I think Cecil alluded to that, and I think some of us have that experience, not only being customers of a marina, but actually being somewhat in the marina business. And with that, and having that intensity with capital, it has to be more comfortable for those to come in and make that outlay of capital dollars a lot more palatable and therefore, the more years, the better. And that goes without saying for any operator, whether it's the current operator, the past operator, or any future operator. The second thing I have to speak on is with respect to the service providers that are allowed to come on site. And I'm very hard pressed over that, and I'm very torn over that, and I'll tell you why. I have a business, and would I want to allow someone to come sell food out of my store? Councillor Bodnar, would you want somebody to come and sell food at your store? Councillor Elliott, would you like Century 21 to walk into Royal LePage and start selling homes out of your business? Frank, Home Hardware, would you want somebody from Rona to come in and start selling product from your business? I opened that door, didn't I? But so it goes without saying. Again, it goes back to my initial comments. We have to be in the mindset, this is our business. And why is it okay just because it's a public business that we allow these things? Just because it's a public business and we happen to hear from other interests, special interests? Well, I gotta say, we are the guardians of a business, and that business is owned by the taxpayers. And we cannot jeopardize the revenue that would otherwise offset the taxpayers' dollars that are going into that business. So we have to be in that mindset. And I think as we move forward, we have to stay in that mindset. Although we do get pressured from those special interests that are out there, we have to be in that mindset. And it goes back to my earlier questions to the different business people that sit around this horseshoe. Would you jeopardize your business? So if you wouldn't, why would you jeopardize this business? Because it's not yours? Well, it is yours. And it belongs to 18,000 people behind us as well. So we have to be sure that we stay in that mindset moving forward and ensure that, as Cecil said, the customer is looked after, the customer number one. But equally as important is that the owners, the taxpayers, are looked after. So I do look forward to that report coming back, the RFP coming back. I will support these recommendations. He's a great job to you and Bob and staff and Peter and our current staff. We look forward to moving it forward. Thanks, Cease. So with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Members, we're now going to move on to item 13. Councillor Kenny. I hope you have a name too, by the way.
Oh, I do. Thank you, Your Worship. Region of Niagara, Niagara Escarpment Crossing Study, Niagara Region, Notice of Study, Commencement Class Environment Assessment. That, in Your Worship, I'm looking to the gentleman on your left.
My left? My immediate left?
Yes. That one of them would volunteer to be appointed to the Technical Advisory Group for the Niagara Escarpment Crossing Study, Niagara Region. And I'm just waiting for one of those hands to shoot up so I can make that recommendation, as I have someone for the next one.
A quick question to the CAO or maybe the clerk. Who is actually our rep on the Escarpment Commission right now? Do we have a rep on the Escarpment Commission? I thought we did. I thought it was Councillor Butters. And she happens not to be here. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe off the top of my head it is Councillor Butters.
Okay.
But I would have to check my records, but I believe that that's the representative.
So would it be appropriate to actually appoint Councillor Butters to this, based on her, of course, accepting the nomination? I'm just throwing it out there, food for thought. I know you want the men to go to work.
Nobody on the left wants this?
Councillor Butters would be very disappointed.
I don't think you can, Your Worship, I don't think we can do that when she's not here.
No, why don't we recommend Councillor Butters right now, and we'll ask Councillor Butters, we'll have staff contact her, or I can send her a quick email tomorrow to ask if she would be willing to take on that appointment.
I think Councillor Elliott wanted this, right? Well, why don't we appoint you, and then if, I'll make the recommendation that we appoint then
Councillor
Elliott.
Okay, fair enough.
And you get your hand up?
Seconded by Councillor Desmarais. Councillor Elliott, that's fine. Do you have a choice? Yeah. No, that crossing, that has to do with the, let me just double check here.
Yeah, 211.
That's the crossing for Niagara Escarpment for the Grimsby Mountain Road alternative. It has nothing to do with the actual Mid-Penn corridor.
No.
This is how, No, this has to do with the town of Grimsby and West Lincoln and Lincoln, whereby they want to try and have an alternate route besides Mountain Road to get to the QEW from the routes that are going to the west. So altogether different, but,
See, I knew he wanted it.
but exciting nevertheless. But exciting nevertheless. So with that, okay, Councillor Kenny, we have your motion moved and seconded. Councillor Elliott accepts, which I know he may.
Yes.
He's gonna love it. All in favor? Opposed? That'll be carried. Thank you. Councillor Kenny, you're up for the second one.
Yes.
Item 14.
And number 14 is the Region of Niagara, the Greater Niagara Circle Route Committee request for an appointment to the Advisory Committee, that Councillor Desmarais be appointed to the Greater Niagara Circle Route Committee in accordance with the request received from Bruce Timms, Regional Councillor, Chair of the Greater Niagara Circle Route Committee.
Thank you, Councillor. Have a seconder to that, please. Councillor Elliott. That went up quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, payback. Any questions or comments? Councillor Desmarais, you're fine with that? And I do want to express my appreciation for filling in for me on Friday over at, yes. Thank you very much, and thank you for accepting this nomination. I talked to Bruce about this. I anticipated you would be that person, so he's very much looking forward, and the whole committee is very much looking forward to your participation. So with that, all those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you, members of council, and thank you. That exhausts the items for this evening. And now we'll move on to notices of motion, other than any notices of motion. With none, we'll move on to a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting. Moved by Councillor Kenny, second by Councillor Bodnar. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you, members. We'll now move on to our council agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any addendum items?
None this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ashley. We'll now move on to a motion to confirm the agenda, please. Councillor Kenny, Councillor Danch, any questions? Comments? Excuse me. All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you, members. We'll now move on to disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures? With none, we need a motion to adopt the minutes of the 37th meeting regular of council dated September 24th, 2012. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bodnar, Councillor Elliott, questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. Are there any items requiring separate discussion for the council portion? Motion to accept all agenda items. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Danch, Councillor Elliott. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We now have some proclamations, members, 3 of them to be exact. The first being the English as a Second Language Week proclamation. And I'll be looking for a mover and seconder. That whereas Ontario has been the destination of choice for many immigrants who have added to the diversity of the province of Ontario by bringing their culture, customs, and language, even as they endeavor to acquire the ability to communicate in English. And whereas the community of English as a second language learners are represented in all aspects of society, they are students, they are volunteers, they are workers, employees, business owners, laborers, and professionals, neighbors, and friends. And whereas the professional organization Teachers of English as a Second Language Ontario hosts a conference in Toronto each year to maintain and expand the skills and abilities of its members. Now therefore, I, Vance M. Badaway, Mayor of the City of Port Colborne, do hereby proclaim November 4th to November 10th, 2012 as English as a Second Language Week here in the City of Port Colborne. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kenny, Councillor Desmarais, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Second, October 2012 is Autism Awareness Month. That whereas autism spectrum disorders, ASD, have seen a 600% increase in their diagnoses over the last 20 years, and currently affects the lives of 80,000 Ontarians, including an estimated group of over 5,000 Niagara Region individuals and their families. And whereas ASD affects 1 in every 110 children born, as well as their families, friends, and their communities. And whereas ASD is a spectrum disorder, which means that it not only presents difficulty in every individual, but its characteristics will change over the life of each individual as well. And whereas a child with ASD will become an adult with ASD. And whereas Autism Ontario, Niagara Region Chapter, is the strongest and most active chapters in Ontario. And whereas the mission of Autism Ontario is to ensure that each individual with ASD is provided the means to achieve quality of life as a respected member of our society. And whereas the Niagara Region chapter of Autism Ontario encourages and invites all Niagara Region members to observe October as Autism Awareness Month in an effort to raise public awareness and public support. Now therefore, I, Mayor Vance M. Badaway, proclaim October 2012 as Autism Awareness Month here in the city of Port Colborne. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Kenny. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Finally, Fire Prevention Week. And that whereas many dedicated citizens have joined with volunteer, professional, and industrial fire safety personnel as partners in fire prevention, in a relentless effort to minimize loss of life, destruction of property, and damage to the environment. And whereas fire losses in Canada remain unacceptably high in comparison with those in other industrialized nations, thereby necessitating improved fire prevention measures. And whereas it is desirable that information on fire causes and recommended preventative measures be disseminated during a specific period of the year. And whereas the 2012 fire prevention theme for this period is Have Two Ways Out. Have two ways out. When the smoke alarm sounds, everyone must know where to go. That is why it is so important for everyone to have working smoke alarms and to develop a practice and home fire escape plan by which having two ways out is extremely important. Now therefore, I, Vance M. Badaway, Mayor of the City of Port Colborne, do hereby proclaim this week of October 7th to 13th, 2012 as Fire Prevention Week here in the City of Port Colborne. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bodner, Councillor Kenny. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you, Councillor. I have 4 sets of minutes of boards, commissions, and committees, and if you don't mind, I'll do them in block. And I'll be looking once again for a mover and seconder. First is the minutes of the Port Colborne Historical and Marine Museum Board of Management meeting dated July 17th, 2012. The minutes of the Downtown Port Colborne BIA dated June 19th, 2012. The minutes of the Seniors Advisory Committee meeting of June 21st, 2012. And finally, the minutes of the Canal Days Advisory Committee meeting dated July 18th, 2012. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bodner, Councillor Dance, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Are there any notices of motion? Madam Clerk, the introduction of the bylaws, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that the following bylaws be read 3 times and finally passed. Bylaw 5862111612 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a letter of agreement with Mapleview Medical Clinic concerning examination room capital improvements and equipment. Bylaw 5863111712 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a contract agreement with Tofolo Enterprises regarding contract 11-01R Westside Arena concession operations. And finally, bylaw 5864111812 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a lease agreement extension with Port Colborne Yacht Harbor and Marine Limited respecting the provision of full-service marine service shop at Sugarloaf Marina. That the following bylaw be read 3 times and finally passed. Bylaw 5865111912 being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne at its regular meeting of Council October 9, 2012.
Councillor Kennedy, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Before I ask for a motion to go into closed session, I do want to announce that the next council and committee meeting is on Monday, October 22nd, 2012. Maybe I'll turn that on. That would be better, right? Thank you, P. I just wanted to announce to those in the public that our next council and committee meeting is dated for October 22nd. That's a Monday here in the chamber, beginning at 6:30 p.m., followed by November 13th. Once again, Committee of the Whole and Council here in the chamber, beginning at 6:30 p.m. I will now entertain a motion to go into closed session to address the following: A, the minutes of the closed session portion of September 24th, 2012, a regular council meeting. B is the Confidential Community and Corporate Services Department Clerk's Division Report Number 2012-34. Subject is an application for appointment to the Accessibility Advisory Committee pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392D, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And finally, Confidential Chief Administrative Officer, Special Projects and Corporate Strategic Initiatives Report Number 2012-6 regarding the potential purchase of industrial land and legal advice concerning same pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and subsection 2392F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communication necessary for that purpose. Members, mover and seconder, please. Councillor Desmarais, Councillor Kenny. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Members, gallery, staff, and those in the public on COGECO, I'm sure you're all watching COGECO this evening. Have a great week. Adjourned.